Hi everybody, and welcome to Industry Backstage Pass, where we take a peek behind the curtains and have a look at what's going on really back behind the industry backstage. The usual gang are here today, so we've got Genevieve Carrier from CE Life Sciences and Edward Almina from Ribbon Property. How you going, guys?
G'day.
Doing well. Genevieve was on the on drums, by the way, fellas, and Lee, you were on what was it, bass? I was lead guitarist of that intro.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I'll have to get you your rock and roll haircut.
I try to grow, but I keep on telling I just walk into the hairdressing salon and before I tell them what to do, they already do it.
My usual.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about what we call spruikers in sheep's clothing. A little bit of a for sale reality check. Jen's going to mention something about the Celtic tiger and what we might do in the live show coming up, which we'll talk about in a moment. And I've got a little bit on health food versus fast food. But before we go on there, we do actually have next time we'll be on a live show. So the live show will be interactive. You can get on, you can have a chat to us. You can ask Edward and Genevieve or myself questions about anything you like, and we'll do our very best to answer them. But that's going to be next Wednesday, the 24th of June at 8 p.m. So come along, have a listen, get involved. We'd love to hear what you have to say or any comments you've got. So let's get into what you've got to talk about, Edwin, which is we're talking about the spruikers in sheep's clothing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Look, it's been a bugbear of mine for many years, probably over a decade, with respect to how professionals or so-called professionals decide to sell property without a real estate license. I've been calling and I've written reports, and I've also have been live on a couple of different programs with the ABC as well, and talking about the importance of disclosing the commissions that agents, more so that spruikers get for selling a property, because I think it's something that it's people are unaware. Not only are a lot of these spruikers that are selling real estate without licenses, they're getting close to 10% in some cases. So for a $330,000 property that they so-called purchase for their clients in Queensland, they get upwards of $30,000, $35,000, even $40,000 to put their unsuspecting clients in dud investments.
Money for jam.
Okay, so we're in the wrong industry.
Yeah, and so am I. I should get rid of my license as well and start spruiking, perhaps.
Who needs a license?
Well, let's listen to the podcast, Lee, and let's let the viewers hear for themselves how people are throwing the licenses away, because in that way there's no recall.
Okay, I'll put that up now for you, mate.
It's a little bit like you with financial planning. I'm also not a financial planner. That's why we have Clint. I found that if I'm a registered tax agent or if I'm a financial planner, then I get limited on what I'm able to say. And so
that's why I got rid of my license to be a financial planner.
Yeah, so because I like to be able to talk about all the crazy stuff, and you can't do that. So yes, I am.
Those troublesome regulations.
Well, there you go. And the ABC, Michael Yander did a great report on the ABC with regard to a mortgage brokerage company and basically advising and putting people into dud investments, as I call them, with self-managed super funds. I know quite a number of public servants that all they had in the super was anything between $60,000 to $120,000, and they got put into not only one, but in some cases into two off-the-plan apartment purchases in Queensland and Victoria through the self-managed super funds. I tell you what, they're in a world of caca at the moment.
Aren't they just? Holy dooly.
And
that's
with
what,
respect,
that's what you can do without a license.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. So basically, how would you go about ensuring that you don't end up with one of these spruikers? Like, what are the danger signs you'd be looking out for?
Well, first of all, they don't operate from your traditional real estate offices, and then again, the landscape has changed with traditional real estate offices. Secondly, you can do a search online in New South Wales anyway. I'm sure in the other states as well, with regard to whether or not people are licensed real estate agents. Secondly, they usually come in the guise of financial planners or giving financial advice. Real estate agents cannot give financial advice by any way, shape, or form unless you've got an AFSL license. But more importantly, I think disclosure is one of the key elements that I've been speaking about for many years. As I said, disclosure in the contract of sale as to what the agency, or marketing company is getting by way of a commission, so that the lawyer that's acting, or the conveyancer that's acting for the purchaser can look at it and say, well, hold on a minute. This particular party is not getting your standard 2.5 or 3% commission on the sale or a purchase of a property, on the sale of a property, but they're getting 8, 9, 10%. That's horrendous. That is criminal as far as I'm concerned. But it should form a part of the contract, like when a true financial advisor gives advice, they tell the party what they're being billed for, being charged for.
Yeah, because I mean, you either have those costs, depends on what level investor you are. So if you're sort of a lower level, their fee will come out in the different sort of products that they put you in, and they should also disclose that. And then otherwise, you can just pay a one-off for the financial planner to build a financial plan, and that's a set, a fee for service basically. Yeah, but it's the transparency is just it's a river of mud in this industry.
Yeah, as I said, you can literally sell real estate without a license, and a couple of discussions I've had with some of the industry bodies, they'll say, oh yeah, but Edwin, they're not commissions, they're marketing fees. Semantics. Yeah, call it marketing fee, call it whatever. It's a fee that's paid by the developer, paid by the builder to a spruiker to get some poor bastard into an investment that they won't be able to afford in the future, won't be rented, and it's usually up in the back of the Gold Coast or Brisbane somewhere, but then again, there were also apartments that were being sold in and around Parramatta and Sydney with commission tags to them, of $50,000-$60,000 for $550,000 apartments that were bought off the plane.
Wow, that's a huge fee, and we've got a little bit going on in Auburn. I saw that on the news the other day.
Maybe maybe Lee can bring up that as well. Oh, do you have the Auburn one?
Sorry, one.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I think that's the one that you're referring to. Yeah, look, there are a lot of people that are going to get caught out, Jen. There's as you know, and the interesting thing is, as I've been saying for many years, a lot of these off the plane purchases were made by overseas investors that wouldn't have a clue what they bought. And the compatriots here, their so-called friends and so-called people that they relied on, their friends and compatriots from China that spruiked them into these dud investments. They walked away with, probably in that case, selling each one of those apartments, they probably walked away with, as I said, $50,000 to $60,000 per unit.
Yeah.
When you times it by the number of units that you see in these high rise, it's just a staggering amount of money. And the developers walk away and get out of their GST bills. And God knows, I mean, we've just had, came across a bit of information the other day, just, relatively small, build and, tax bill of GST, basically 14 million, I think. And that Auburn one there was 21 million. What's the tax office doing? For goodness sake. Like, this is anyway. So there's the fees that the individual pay unknowingly for the management fee or the marketing fee and then whatever. And then, everyone loses, but the property developers, is it?
Oh, that's what those stories allude to. There are so many shenanigans that go on in the construction industry with regards to building new apartments, and a lot of those fees also are taken up by the as I said, by the marketing companies that get would-be investors into these dud investments. But look, at the end of the day, it's you've just got to, as I say on Martin's show, you just got to research who's selling you the property, research, and ask the question. Your typical real estate office, the average commission in Sydney at the moment is around the 2%, or just under 2% across the landscape, probably around 1.7%. But then look, there's a lot of other fees that come into the sales transaction that I'm not happy with, that are not disclosed, and then agents aren't put to task also, which is a topic for another day, which is the vendor paid advertising that people are forced to pay up front. Marketing fees to take properties to auction and so on. But we could go around in circles. Those fees, but nevertheless, those fees, the Spruikers that promote these investments, if they're not real estate agents, you know that they are getting a big clip, not only from the developers and vendors, but they're more than likely also charging the buyers a fee for the education material, so-called education material that they give to them, and so they're getting a clip both ways, which is unconscionable and it's illegal.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it?
Wow.
Excellent. Now, I just wanted to bring up the tweet that I just brought up erroneously before that you put out, Edwin, talking about most of the loans in the property market could be an amalgamation of 2 to 3 properties. Could you elucidate us a little bit more on that?
Well, interesting. We know that we've been informed across the mainstream media that there's close, let's say, around about 480,000 mortgages that are on hold. The AFR have recently brought out that 90,000 of those mortgages are in the world of poo, and what they don't extrapolate or what they don't break down is they're treating it as a mortgage, but a mortgage could have 1, 2, 3, or 4 properties attached to it by cross-collateralizing the mortgage or the loan. So when they say 1 or 90,000, it could literally represent a couple of 100,000, maybe it could even represent 250,000 individual properties that are in stress out there in the market. Now, not only that, but if we take it a little bit further, if we extrapolate that a little bit further, we've got to then ask the question, how many people have drawn down on those mortgages, predominantly from the principal places of residence or investment properties that have got a little bit of equity in them, and how many people have drawn down on that to fund a business, to start a business, or to keep their businesses afloat. So again, there's these mortgages. You could end up having 250,000 properties in stress, but how many businesses are also attached to that are under stress? And as we know, what's coming around the corner is also this holiday period of not only the banks is coming to an end, but also the holiday that landlords have given businesses on the leases.
Well, I just heard on the ABC News this morning, and they were talking to a couple of different business owners. Now, I think this guy had a couple of hairdressing salons, maybe in Melbourne, I can't remember. But so he was saying very, very thankful for JobKeeper. Yep. Otherwise, we would have had a for sale sign on our business and a for sale sign outside our house. So bang on like that, just one example, just heard it this morning, but bang on the money, because banks don't want to lend to business. It costs too much. They've got to hold too much capital. And so what do? Oh, give us your house as collateral. So they're all,
and that's what the mainstream and the mainstream economists and the Spruikonomics, as I call it, they don't disclose. They don't break it down to what's really happening in the landscape, as I've been sharing all along, guys. And you know how hard it is to start a business, and that's what we're going to be doing in future podcasts, is interviewing business owners and all the red tape that they have to go through in order to keep a business going, let alone start one.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I was just at a business 2 days ago, and they make snack bars, muesli bars, protein bars, that sort of thing. And they were being ordered by one of the supermarkets. And that was, I've done a couple of those on either side of the audit process, and they are a nightmare. And this guy, really good, spent a lot of time working through everything. They eventually caught him on one little thing, which was an air compressor he forgot to get audited. So those audit processes, no matter whether you're in food, wherever you are, they're tough. They're very, very tough.
Expensive. They're really expensive because you've got to pay, because we helped do an audit up in a regional area, and you've got to put up your auditor in a nice hotel for a couple of days. Like, these costs just go up and up and up, and it's just like, anyway, we probably got a little sidetracked, but yeah, super tough.
Yeah, but that's reality, though, isn't it? They're the real costs. They're the real cost of the newspapers, or the newspapers. That the mainstream news outlets don't break it down. People don't understand. As I've been saying, that a lot of real estate offices in a lot of strife, and I've been saying that for a number of years. Just because property has been going up in value doesn't mean that real estate agencies are making money. They make money when there are a lot of transactions happening. You make money when you sell the product, and in real estate offices, you make money when you sell homes or properties but when the transactions start dropping, when you don't sell as many muesli bars as you would like, when you don't sell 500,000 muesli bars and you only sell 100,000, well, that's not going to keep the machines going. That's not going to pay for all the overheads and the costs that are involved in keeping a business. So the business models are changing daily.
The margins in, well, food particularly, because that's our sort of area of expertise, but there's no margins. And so it's only done on this equation only works on volume. Now, there's been a lot of produce that's been exported in the last couple of years to China, particularly. And I mean, really, quite frankly, that's been the main market. If you've been able to make money, any other market, like, I think also you forget how small the Australian market is. We are such a small pond. Like, we think we're so important and everything, but as far as like the United States, China and that sort of thing, we just don't have the population to get that volume. And if you're only making X cents per unit, we're not talking dollars, it's cents. So you have to shift hundreds of thousands of units to keep paying for the auditing, to keep paying for the wages, because we do have reasonable wages, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah. Anyway, Lee.
Well, maybe if you start producing products and food products and don't call the auditors and don't get a license and don't get accredited and just start selling, maybe you'll make a lot more. Maybe the profit margin will go from cents to dollars.
Oh, that's a great
unfortunately, they catch you on the legal end, the other side, when they sue you. I was just going to add. So I was just going to add to what Genevieve was saying, that when I was talking to someone else, and they made muesli products, and they were talking or negotiating with one of the big pharmacy chains to put their product onto their shelves. And this was selling for around $10 for a unit of this muesli, and it had a lot of stuff in it, like it was worth $10 basically. And they were sort of put to them and said, if you want to be on our shelves, you've got to sell it for $5. So the retailer turned around and stated what the RRP should be. Now, if you think about that, 50% of that goes to the retailer. So for that $5, that gentleman has to make his muesli for $2.50 now. Now, if you're selling it for $10, I can tell you now $2.50 is probably under production costs. So it's really tough. So that's why when you end up going in with these big retailers, you end up thinking, well, what am I actually paying for? I'm paying for the shelves, the advertising, the packaging. The food in the package is probably one of the least expensive things in the whole exercise. And then
we start importing crap from overseas that don't go through all the rigor and all the controls that our local suppliers end up going through, and we don't know what the hell we're doing. I'll share this with you, Lee, and Jen. You'll like this, and so will our viewers. A couple of years back, or actually a few years ago, I was actually trying to sell a fishing company, a trawling company to it was on the market. They were looking at putting it on the market, and I had it off. It wasn't advertised. It was one of these off-market type of deals. Now I was looking at the business, drove down, looked at the whole operation, and one of the interesting things was that I learned in doing all the research, getting all the P&Ls, getting all the costings, putting everything together, and taking a couple of interested parties that had offshore investors that were looking at buying it down there. One of the things that I found out is that when trawlers bring all the prawns that they head off down toward Tasmania, and they bring it all up, and then they snap freeze them. They send it to Thailand in containers. Then in Thailand they thaw them out. They de-shell them, or whatever the process is. They basically process them. Who knows with what water they're washing them down with. Then they bag them, snap freeze them again, and send them back to Australia to that company. Then for that company to distribute it to the outlets. And I can tell you what, since then I have not eaten, not bought packaged prawns. Particularly the ones that are in the big two main shopping outlets, because of that. You don't know what water they use, but yet our locals here, we can't do any of that here because labour is too expensive, the regulations too expensive, the water's got to be a particular pH level, this level, that level.
I mean, the issue there, I guess. I was going to say, Jen, the issue there, of course, as we both know, is it's labour cost. So you can pull those prawns out of the sea, get them onto a boat. That's a very expensive exercise. But the expense is having 30 people sitting there with their prawns, pulling the head off, pulling the shell off. It's got to be done by hand. And it's a lot cheaper to send it to Southeast Asia, where you can pay someone a lot less to process that for you. And then, of course, the physical action of when you freeze something, your prawn, it goes through a very clever thing called a fluidized bed freezer, which is basically a very quick way of instantly freezing them. And it produces very small ice crystals, which keeps integrity in the product. So vegetables, seafood, whatever it is. But unfortunately, when you thaw it back out, process it, then snap freeze it again, you're going to do twice the damage. So you may as well stick it in your home freezer and just blow it out, because you're going to end up with something where the protein or the fibers are going to be all sort of twisted and bent, and it's not going to have a nice, pleasant taste. It's going to be rubbery, to be perfectly honest with you. So yeah, that's the reason why.
So the moral of the story for me was buy fresh.
No, the moral of the story is put on your wellies and get out with a bucket.
I was also going to say, so when you get seafood, and when you sort of get it and you think, oh, this is absolutely dripping, even though it's in a plastic bag and paper, and it's so much moisture comes out of it, most likely it's been frozen. As Lee said, the cells and the cells of the flesh or the whatever, they've been smashed because they've been, when you think about when you fill your ice tray at home, and you've got to leave a little bit of space because ice expands when it freezes. And so that happens within the cells of the vegetables, of the prawns, of the fish, or the whatever it is. So they expand when they freeze, then it loses its moisture once it thaws, and that's what you're getting, this bag of juice out of your seafood. So you'll know whether the fishmonger says it's been not frozen or it has been. You can tell.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've started with poorly made apartments. We've ended up in poorly constructed seafood. So why don't we stop that conversation there, and we'll just take a 3-second break, and we'll come back and talk about the Celtic tiger with you, Jen.
Okay.
So you wanted to talk about the parallels between the Australian and the Irish property markets.
Yeah, look, this was sort of done by DFA, Martin North, John Adams did a little bit. They talked to actually Michael Hobbs from Ireland. And we were talking, it was being discussed about in 2018 when the property market first took that first sort of dive post the peak at 2017. And see so anyway, the other evening, DFA Martin had a live show, and I asked. I was lucky enough to get an answer of Martin on the chat. And Lee, do you want to play that now? Yep. And we'll go from there.
Okay.
It's an interesting one. Gen C says, been looking at Irish property bubble, Celtic tiger. Now look with COVID shock like GFC, do you think we're looking even more like Ireland 2007-8? Yes and no. The difference is, of course, that we have our own currency, whereas they didn't. They had basically the euro. And so the euro basically gave them less wriggle room. And, of course, they compromised essentially and did things that the Eurozone wanted them to do. We have our own currency. Trouble is that our currency is now at 69 against the US, not at 50 or 55, which is where the Reserve Bank would want it. So actually our currency may be working against us at the moment. My own view is it's probably going to come back down a bit because I think we'll see the US dollar strengthen further. But it's tricky because there are many other characteristics, particularly the focus on construction and on the housing sector, which is absolutely the same. A lot of issues with regards to the population and changes in population growth. Remember that we've got no migration at the moment, which is also another negative. So there are lots of things that look quite similar, I think, in my view.
So we're talking about a change between Ireland and Australia is mainly the currency. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, look, I mean, because we're standing back here in 2020 and we're looking back with a hell of a lot of hindsight, there is that from the macro, right? From the macro, what happened because they didn't have control over their own interest rates, currency, all that sort of stuff, and they had a bank go bad. But I was just going back because now there is a channel. It's called RTE. It's in Irish Gaelic, so it's difficult to pronounce, but it's like the Irish BBC, so quite well regarded. Their study, their documentaries and the like. And I'm just putting it out there for anyone that just wants to have a little bit of a revisit, because I tell you what, when you look at that future shock, that's been broken up into, I think, about 4 parts because they've recorded it on television, and it's from April 2007. So they're sort of talking about something coming. No mention of the GFC, no mention of the what they call exogenous shock, right? Which is the thing that no one knew about. Gee, it's interesting looking at the exuberance, the building, people going, oh, hang on a minute, maybe is this a bit wobbly? Where we are right now, I think. Anyway, so I'm curious if anyone wants to spend some, I know there's so much to consume on YouTube and that sort of thing, but just there's a couple of links below. Add that into your viewing pleasure. And there's another one, How We Blew the Boom. And I know, and Martin mentioned, it's not exactly the same, but the process of a bubble bursting, I think it is the same. It's been the same because they refer to what happened in the UK in the 80s, 90s, which was an interest rate shock. So then you look at Ireland, and it had the exogenous shock, the outside shock of the GFC. Nobody saw that coming. Well, a few did and shorted everything, and that's the big short movie that people are sort of starting to play again. What's our exogenous shock? Oh, my God, a pandemic. Hello, that's a pretty big one. And we're also, it's probably most likely going to lead into a financial crisis, although the Fed's pumping money to try and stop that from happening. But anyway, Edwin, can I ask you to do some homework if you manage to find an hour in the next couple of weeks? If you wouldn't mind, please watching those docos and then translate these Irish towns into Australian towns and cities, because I think it's a real curiosity, because we've got this, it's like setting up your dominoes and just waiting for the tap, and away she goes. And that tap was an almighty hammer, which was COVID, because all this was set up before. We were already buggered from 2008.
I tell you one of the things, Jen, that a couple of my clients have alluded me to yesterday. Interesting that you bring up, part of the Irish, what happened there in Ireland and the fall there with regard to the property, the market and the bubble bursting. But a couple of clients, they've got investment properties by way of strata lots in apartments closer to the city, and they sent me some of the the strata reports or the minutes or something, a notice from the strata company.
Yeah.
And it was interesting how they emphasised and highlighted across these blocks, they haven't experienced this amount of break-ins to storage cages in the basement parkings, in years, and it's only really it's escalated in the last couple of months. So obviously they're starting to warn the property owners of what's happening, and obviously a lot of the tenants are complaining. So what we're going to see is that's parallel to what happened in Ireland. I think there's a lot of vagrancy, a lot of what we see here is the surgence of vagrancy and pilfering, and crime is going to, I believe, is going to go through the roof. And because of people that are unemployed are going to start looking at different ways and means to make some money. So I think that's something that I'm keeping an ear to the ground on. And also what I've also had in the last over the last month or so has been family lawyers are taking on a lot more requests of late with regard to family separations, with regard to property settlements, with regard to organising property settlements before it all goes pear-shaped, and all sorts of inquiries, apart from what I've also shared before, and that is my communication with a number of liquidators in Sydney and people that are making inquiries of how to wind businesses down, because once JobKeeper stops, they're not going to be able to keep their workforce, and quite frankly, their accountants are already advising them, why get into greater debt to try and keep a business going with 50% of the patronage? You couldn't keep it going. What makes you think you're going to keep your business afloat with 50% less customers in the front door?
Yeah, because it was already a downturn. So it's absolute crap, basically, what we've been fed pre the last election and the whatever. Oh, the economy's fine, it's fine. And I don't know why Bill Shorten or Labor at the time didn't say, no, you're wrong. But anyway, but this is, businesses were doing it tough before, much before, and this is just the plan, And they're sort of saying now with JobKeeper, I mean, it just basically keeps zombie companies going. And I mean, as soon as that lifeline gets cut off, they're done for. And
absolutely. I was going to say, we were watching another commentator, George Gammon, the other night, and he was saying exactly the same things happening in the US with the support going into all these businesses over there, but it's trying to determine the true value of those businesses now as the task, because they're either artificially kept afloat, or, I mean, in the case of something like Hertz, they've already declared bankruptcy, and you've still got people jumping into the market and buying their stocks. I mean, you can't help stupid, can you?
No, you can't. And this is, I guess, this is some of the. What we're trying to do is, yes, we talk about the doom and gloom. We talk about what's happening out there in reality, and sometimes it comes across as doom and gloom. But I think it's more of a warning signs that the mainstream don't like to tell people. Warning signs of like your body tells us, was telling me, giving me warning signs that. That something was amiss. And before the pandemic, I was able to see my specialist for my yearly checkups, and I was able to see him, and he was very concerned as to what was happening in my throat, and we obviously were able to perform a couple of different tests and so forth to determine what was really going on. So they're the warning signs in our own bodies, in our own health, and then at the same time, when we come across the turmeric product, come across you guys, and that's being able to help me, and again, and it's helped me to maintain a level of fitness. Likewise, with the the economy, there are warning signs. With property, there are warning signs. And how long have I been warning people not to buy in investment properties, off the plan investment properties, without doing the due diligence on the builder, developer, where they're going to build, how they're going to build, how it's going to be constructed, and so forth. So these are, guys, these are warning signs that we put out to help people and assist people in making better decisions. Like you've helped me to make better decisions through my diet, through what I take, what I don't take, which has helped me a lot.
You helped us.
Likewise, and hopefully to help our audience, and by interviewing the small business operators, people can see what not to do, how not to get. We're going to learn. We learn two ways: by making mistakes ourselves, as we go along, or by learning from other people's mistakes and not make them.
Yeah, and another thing.
So I was going to say, Jen, I think that's a 90-10 split there. 90% is hard yards and 10% is listening to advice.
And also, I had to hear it on the news as well, or AM or something like that on the ABC, but they were sort of talking about this idea of, with small businesses, if it wasn't so good, 6, 12, 18 months ago, don't just dig yourself a deeper and deeper hole by going to more debt, which is what you were saying, Edwin. Maybe if you've still got some funds or capital left, is there something, maybe you just got to cut your losses, and there's maybe something else you can do, because it's time for a rethink. And that's what recessions are for. They have a purpose, right? Recessions are cleansing. That's why, we can liken it to the bushfires, and we've just had the most horrific summer due to that massive buildup of fuel and dead wood. And that's what's sitting there in Australia, particularly because we didn't even get to flush out the crap in 2008. We kind of just put more crap on crap, and it's like sediment now. We got to really it's really got to flush out. So that's in malinvestment, just bad decisions haven't been punished. There's some weirdness, they've been sort of almost encouraged. But anyway, I don't want to get completely fried by a massive, you want to have a low heat fire. That's what, they talk about cultural burning and that sort of thing is. And that's what our Australian animals, sorry to get on a sidetrack, but that's, the koalas, they're all meant to go to the top of the trees because the fire was meant to be low and low heat, but they could get salvage in the tree canopy. This just went, took the lot. So it got so big. So it got so big that the clean out is so big. Anyway, so it's time for businesses and households. It's not a nice thing to say, but you have a good long hard look in the mirror. That's my reality. That's right.
Well, the other thing I was just thinking about too was in that same piece we were watching with George Gammon. I cannot remember the gentleman's name he referenced. He was a trader, and he sort of was talking about when you make a loss, and people were saying, no, we've got to get back into the market. We've got to do something. He said, no, you sit out and you wait. You see what happens, and when something good, cheap, and of value comes along, then you jump back in. So I think there's a lot of that involved too, is people panicking and trying to jump back in, whether it be real estate, whether it be stocks, whatever it is, and trying to make amends for their losses too soon by jumping into a high value product, which hoping, as George was saying, they instead of buying it at $1, they buy it at $3 and hope it goes to $5. Wait till it comes back down to the $1. That's when you jump in.
His thing was all about, is it cheap or is it expensive? Yeah. At the moment, well, apart from some precious metals, I might just put my little bit in there, everything's expensive. And so this little variation of price up and down, volatility and all that sort of stuff, it's still expensive. Anyway, everyone's going to make their own choices about doing, and so is property. Property's still expensive.
Yeah, I like the idea. I like the idea there, Jen, that you brought up, and that was we're going to be making choices, and we're going to have to make changes, and that change doesn't have to be a 180 degree. That change can only be 1 degree. We could only be 1 degree of center to eventually end up way kilometers away from the mark that we want to hit in time. So or we could have been off by 1 or 2. Just that rudder needs to move a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, to the right in order to get us to the next to the next phase. But that change, most definitely, the whole landscape is going to change. I even feel the demographics are going to change throughout Sydney. Sydney being, as I call it, Sydney being my real estate backyard. And that is, I think the demographics are going to change. People are going to be migrating further out from the central hubs in order to create a bit more space. Because, as I said before, I think in our last show, and that is, this is COVID-19. What about when COVID 21 and 25 and 27 and 30 arrive later on down the track? People are thinking, well, gee, how as the family gets bigger or as I get older, how will I put up with not only 2 months but 3 months, possibly even 4 months of being locked down and in isolation? Can I live in a high-rise apartment? There are a lot of changes, and there's going to be a lot of movement and shifting of the demographics throughout Sydney. I can see it now at ground level, and it's rather interesting how the people are going to start migrating from one area to another.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Excuse me. So we might sort of stop that conversation, and 3 seconds later I'll come back and I'll tell you about another issue you might have if you're going to sit around for 2 or 3 months during a lockdown, and that's what is the energy density of the food that you're eating. So we'll be back in just 2 seconds. So I was looking at a couple of articles. What prompted me to look at these, I was talking to someone about energy density in their food the other day, and they were sort of saying, oh, I'm eating X, Y, and Z. And I was saying to them, well, that's a lot of energy density. You're eating a lot of stuff that's giving you a lot of energy. And I came across an article. I'll just drop it up on the screen now. It's from the George Institute for Global Health. And what these guys do is they look at various food trends and what's actually available in the marketplace for people to consume. And this one's talking about the good old fast food meal combos. Now, we're all familiar with that. We're all familiar with upsizing. We're all familiar with that idea of going down and grabbing a burger and fries and getting a drink as well. So these guys sort of looked at 144 different combinations, and about half the fast food outlets in Australia participated. And what they found was there were some very, very big energy densities in this food. And I'll give a couple of examples. I've got a couple of cheat sheets in front of me here. So I'll name the businesses here because they were named in that article, and I'll put the link to the article down below as well. But the Red Rooster Bacon Cheese Ripper Roll Combo. Now, doesn't that sound like a way to start your day, the Breakfast of Champions?
Yeah. Give me one of those each morning.
Well, mate, that's all you would need for the day, because that combo, so that we're talking about there is a large fries, a caffeinated cola beverage, and the bacon and cheese Ripper Roll will give you 7,730 kilojoules of your 8,700 a day. Now, that's just short of 90% of your energy in one meal. That is just crazy. And just to top that off a little bit more, you're getting 4,571 milligrams of sodium, which is twice what you need in a day. So that is the big one. Now, if you look at, say, number 2, that's our friends over at Hungry Jack's. They do a Whopper Hunger Tamers meal, and you get 2 burgers, 3 nuggets, fries, and that caffeinated cola beverage, and you get 7,600 kilojoules, or 87% of your RDI. So they're number 1 and 2. They're the big hitters in this category. So when you go through your drive-thru and you're thinking about getting a burger, think about what you're actually consuming and how much of your daily energy is coming into that one simple meal. How much fat and carbohydrate and protein can we put down into a tiny little burger, and let's face it, they're getting smaller and smaller, and we'll talk about that another time as well. So the energy density is really important. And I mean, that's, it's quite obvious when you sort of say, oh yes, burger, fries and Coke, that's not great for you. But I guess the thing I wanted to bring up from that article was they were talking about the plant-based burgers. Now, are you guys familiar with the Beyond Burger or the Impossible Burger? Have you come across these patties made of plant matter?
Vegan. This is for the vegan.
Yeah, I've heard of them. Haven't had one.
No.
No, I mean, from a scientific point of view, they're an absolute triumph. The grilled Beyond Burger is a soy protein isolate and gluten-based burger that actually acts like meat. So when you grill it, it bleeds like a piece of meat does. So this is the incredible thing. Now, Genevieve and I, when we were at uni, we went to uni together years ago and did our final year project, which was on a vegetarian meat analog, oddly enough. And we came to the conclusion that if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, you probably don't want something that looks and tastes like meat. But nowadays, after listening to what people are talking about, they're able to recreate to such a level of authenticity that they are able to attract a whole lot of people who necessarily are not making a lifestyle choice through veganism or vegetarianism, but they're looking at it from a health perspective. And this is where I think it all falls over. The plant-based burgers were, per unit, one of the worst performers in this study. You're looking at about 3,094 kilojoules per item for just the burger. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but when you consider it, it's mainly carbs and the sodium levels are just absolutely astronomical. So I sat down and I did a bit of a calculation. So if you got up in the morning and you did your, say your seeded toast and smashed avo on toast for the morning, that's going to give you about 1,900 kilojoules. Then you might have, say, some brown rice, veggie, and if you want some protein, some tofu in it, that'll give you about 2,000 odd kilojoules. Then you might have a couple of coffees through the day. Say you're going to go and have a cheat and have a couple of Tim Tams. You're looking at then, say, another sort of 1,100, 700. And then you get to the evening, you have a glass of wine, that's about 280. And then your burger, your plant-based burger, which is about 3,000 kilojoules. When you add that up, that's 9,373 kilojoules. Now, if I said to you, I had smashed avo on toast, veggies, rice and tofu and a plant-based burger for my meal for the day, you go, you sound quite healthy. But what you've got there is a one-way ticket to having to open up the belt a little bit further. You're going to put on the pounds because it's going to give you more energy than you can actually expend in a normal day. So that's a very a meager sort of diet. That's not, an extravagant diet by any stretch. And it's still 9,300 kilojoules. So it's enormous.
Lee, can I ask a question there? Can you formulate one with the previous, like the formula that gave you the around about the 9,000 all up? But can you throw in a cinnamon donut with the two coffees? and can you change the wine to tequila? And let me know if I'm on track or if I'm off, because I love my cinnamon donuts and tequila. But
you might do a couple of rounds of shadow boxing for that one, mate.
I mean, I was just going to say too, when you eat those burgers and those sorts of things, the whole thing is that they're so processed and soft. There's a thing we get triggered, and Lee, you can talk more to this, which is when you chew food, you release a hormone which triggers to you to say, I'm full, I'm satiated, it's satiety, I feel full, and it slows you down. And these things are so easy to eat and consume, and you've just eaten it like that, and then you still feel hungry. So the hormone, Lee.
Absolutely, yeah. So you've got your ghrelin and your leptin, which gives you your hunger and you're feeling full. And if you, as Jen said, it's a physical action. Your brain tags, okay, the jaw muscles are going up and down, so it starts releasing that hormone into your body, and your stomach then feels full. Your brain says, right, that's full, I don't need enough. Now, with fast food, you can either get a lot of that down before the message goes from your brain to your tummy, or as Jen said, it's so easy to eat. Like you think about a hamburger bun you get from a fast food outlet, and I've done this with many, many groups. Tear off a piece of it, put it in your mouth. A piece of bread shouldn't dissolve on your tongue. It's as simple as that. So there's more fat and sugar in one of those rolls than there is protein and fiber. And that's because you need to get it down you as quickly as possible because you're driving or you're doing something else or whatever you do when you're eating your fast food. So instead of stopping and eating a meal, that's the whole basis of that meal is you're eating on the run. So you don't get the same physiological response from your brain to your stomach. So you're driving along, you finish your burger, you chop down, say a thick shake, you're eating your fries, you've consumed 4,000 kilojoules, half your energy for the day. And you get to the end, you think, oh, I have a chocolate milk and some chips in the afternoon, or I could have something, and you just keep adding and adding, and that's where you see this epidemic of obesity. And I mean, I'll do some stuff on the inflammation effects of adipose fat, what it can do, the cytokines. If you come across the word cytokines through COVID stuff or through anything else, the cytokines are things that cause inflammation. They're part of your immune response sometimes. So there's all sorts of things that can go on, but obesity, apart from just the societal prejudice against it, physiologically it's not great for you. But just to put that study in context, sorry, Jen, yeah.
So adipose fat, a lot of people probably won't know what that is. Adipose.
Yeah, so the adipose fat is the brown fat that clings to your organs. It's not the love handles you get; it's the stuff that's actually inside. So you could be really ripped, have lots of abs, big biceps, but your organs could be covered in this adipose fat if you're eating the wrong type of fats or you're eating the wrong type of diet. So that's the thing that actually gets you. The external fat is really just an exercise in inflating or deflating cells with fat or water. It's the adipose fat inside you that you don't really see. And to actually do a test to determine that is very difficult. You've got to go and have scans and all sorts of things. So, yeah, it's a tricky thing. But, I mean, the best thing you can do to avoid a buildup of adipose fat, I mean, it's going to be boring. I'm sorry. It's going to be really boring, but it's fiber, vegetables, go for a walk, drink some water, call your mother once a week. You know, those boring things that we all talk about, you know. So that's all you've really got to do. But I was just going to say, to put that into a combination, about half the outlets in Australia didn't take part in that study. And the reason they did that is because they didn't have nutritional information available. So,
no.
Yeah, you turn out your packet, every foodstuff has nutritional information, yet you can pump out the greasiest, sugar-laden, fat-riddled griddle cake you can want, and you don't need to inform the customer that 2 of these will probably kill them in a week's time. You know, so it's just one of these things that's just incredible. The other thing that I wanted to point out here was that, of the 144 combo meals they looked at, 60% exceeded sodium levels.
Yeah.
Now, sodium, flat out, not good for your heart. That's as simple as that, you know. So if you can reduce the sodium levels, increase your potassium levels, you're going to be much better off. Now, out of those 60, 23 of them were from Red Rooster and 18 were from Hungry Jack's. So I can tell you those 2 businesses have got the loyalty card at the Saxa Salt Company because they're throwing a hell of a lot of sodium into their food. And that's how you make something taste good. Yeah. So Genevieve and I have done it for years. You put a pinch of salt into products you wouldn't even think about it. Like, you know, we all heard about putting a pinch of salt into a chocolate bar. But would you be understanding that if I put a pinch of salt into your orange juice, it'd taste sweeter? If I put a pinch of salt into your chocolate milk or your flavored milk, it tastes better. Salt is the cheapest flavor enhancer. Forget monosodium glutamate and all these other flavor enhancers. Salt works. It's cheap, and our brains recognize it. As long as you don't go too big, it's really quite functional and quite useful from a formulation point of view. But the downside is you end up with double your sodium levels going into your food. So, you know, it's not great.
And that's why you have tequila with a bit of salt and lemon.
Well, I've heard tequila negates the whole thing. I was going to say, it's like your cinnamon donut. I was going to say, if you grab your cinnamon donut, break it in half and just tap out the calories.
Yeah. Well, I tried to bake a cake once, and look, back then I thought I was going down the wrong path, but now that after listening to you, Lee, I think I was on the right track because it was so hard. I actually rolled it down the driveway and it didn't break apart. So going back to your thesis and your analysis of food, I'm thinking, gee, I think I was on the right track here. I was on something and I didn't even know it.
It sounds like you're trying to weaponize
just to also note with sodium, as with sugar, with our taste buds, the more you eat of it, the less you are aware of it. You can once you can sort of cross a particular threshold, more salt and more sugar, you're already sort of maxed out your taste buds, and so you're not even enjoying that extra calories or load of sodium on your body. So there is it's a slippery slope, that one.
Well, I'll give you a good example of that. When the days of yore was a dairy technologist and making yogurt and ice cream and things like that, there was a yogurt that I worked on, and we'll put it this way. Usually, if you exceed 5 to 7% sugar in a formulation, so if you've got 100 grams of whatever the food is and 5% of it is coming from the sugar, that's about as sweet as your palate can take. After that, you're really not getting any extra benefit. You're getting body, you're getting filler, it's a cheap way to make something. This yogurt, which was fat-free, or was fat-free, but it was 24.5% sugar. So it was effectively a syrup with some dairy in it. And that's why they could get the body in that tasted great, but it was just all sugar.
That's why some of the foundations in construction, you see they're massive, but they've got no steel inside of them, or very little. And that's why these buildings are falling to pieces.
We'll call it confectionery foundation.
They've got more sugar in there than steel.
Excellent. Okay, so thank you very much, guys. That's been a great conversation today. Does anyone have any final thoughts they want to throw out before we finish up?
Just about a little competition. Look, I participated. Yeah. I'll let you. What is it? Gammons, throw to the editor.
First, I got to explain.
Sorry,
what you're seeing here on the screen is some work from our newest team member, Davis, and he made a really good job. I think he did a great job of the coffee mugs, putting them on screen. I didn't want to have to hold them all up. We haven't even opened all of them yet. There's still more coming in. I know Tammy said that she's expecting another 15 or 20. From all over the world, we have coffee mugs now from Lithuania, from Australia, all over the world. Most of them coming from the States, of course.
So that's Peter Leeds.
Peter Leeds from peterleeds.com. So he's well known for he's known as a penny stock trader. He's quite a dude, actually. He has a particular style and that sort of thing, but he's a market guy. He's Canadian, lives in the States. He actually has MS and whatever. But he's good. Anyway, so I was listening to him. So they had this coffee cup competition to win an ounce of gold. We're not going to offer an ounce of gold, but what I can do is, because I got all those coffee mugs, I can offer you one of my coffee mugs that you just saw on the screen there that he happened to put up. So this is here he is. Is that? Can you see that?
It says debt is not wealth.
Debt is not wealth. That's actually a quote from Peter Leeds. Well, I'll attribute it to him. And the next one there now, because it was sorry, I'm going backwards. So hopium of the masses. So hopium, bit of a trader kind of term, but I think it's for any kind of speculative or bubble type scenario. Hopium of the masses, the inevitable burst of I had Canadian and Australian real estate bubbles, and you can name your name.
Put your year in.
I'm going to lock in. I'm not sure if it's 2022 or 2023, but anyway, I do have a couple of those cards left because I got a job lot done when I sent mine off to America at the end of last year. And so we're just going to say what are we going to do? We're going to have, if you could pop some comments on the YouTube listing below, and just pop in that you'd like to go into a draw for, say, coffee cup draw, and we'll grab your names and we'll get one of our kids to draw it out, so it's all legit. So we'll do that at the end of the month, 1st of July.
As long as you don't get a Spruiker to pull the name out, we'll be all right.
Got to be kids like that. Mind you, they're pretty corruptible with a bit of sugar.
Excellent. Okay. That's fantastic. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us again. We'll be back next week, as we said in the live show. We'll send out some tweets and we'll stick it on Facebook as to what time. It's 8 o'clock on the 24th, but we'll make sure we've got plenty of notice for everyone. Have some questions ready, or if you want to tweet them beforehand, let us know straight up and we'll include them in the show. Thank you very much again. Looking forward to, I should also say, really thank you everyone that jumped on to the CE Life Sciences website, and we had several purchases of our Turmeric Advantage Plus. Really happy that people wanted to take the chance and have a go, and they listened to Edwin's story and they found it, resonated. So I've spoken to a couple of the customers thus far. I gave them my mobile and we've had a couple of exchanges just to make sure that they're happy with what they've got, make sure they understand what they can do with the product and what it can achieve. So yeah, thanks a lot. If you want to find out a bit more about it, obviously jump onto the website. You can tweet Jen or myself, or go through to the Industry Backstage Pass socials, and you can get information through there. But thanks again, guys, and look forward to speaking next week.
Looking forward to those questions.
See you, Edwin.
All right. Bye all.